Hi everyone, it's Laura here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video I'm gonna show you how to create a cute trio of Halloween tags using stamps by SugarPea designs and Nuvo Shimmer powders. To start off today's project, I die cut 3 tags out of some Winsor & Newton watercolor cardstock. This is the Cotman series, using this tag here by SugarPea designs, and this is called the Snowflake tag. And then I will be creating my backgrounds on these tags using Nuvo Shimmer powders, and I am using 2 colors per tag. I am starting from the first one where I want to have sort of a purplish black sky. So for that I am using Violet Brocade and Stormy Sky. And I'm starting by basically applying the powders here and there on this tag. And then I will take my distress sprayer and spritz the entire surface with water. I'm trying not to add too much water because I want to retain the texture that is created by these great products. And once I have wet my tag, I can also go back in and add a little bit more pigment here and there to intensify the color and add more structure. And I did that with the Violet Brocade first, and now I am adding a little bit of extra Stormy Sky too. And you can see that the paper is warping a little bit, and this means that basically the water and the pigments are pulled towards the top and the bottom of the tag, and they are creating some vertical striations, which is not exactly what I wanted for these tags. So I am using my metal cutters, my wire cutters, to keep down the tag and hold it flat. And I also added a little bit more water to help the pigments move. And then I figured out basically that if I wanted to wait for the tag to dry and hold it down like this, I would have had to sit on my desk for longer than I wanted to. So basically what I did is I just left it to dry as it is, and I was sure that I would get a great result anyway because these shimmer powders are really fun and produce such beautiful and textured backgrounds that I really didn't need to worry about it too much. So I moved on to my next tag, for which I used Green Parade and Solar Flare. And again, I first added the powders and then spritzed them with water. And after that, I again tried to hold the tag down a little bit. And then I came back in with a bit more Solar Flare and a little bit more Green Parade to add more texture and color to this tag. So in case you haven't tried them, shimmer powders are basically a pigment powder which is water soluble, and it's also mixed with mica powders. So basically once you put it down on your paper and it reacts with water, it will create these bursts of color and shimmer, which add, as I said, a lot of texture and a lot of interest on your backgrounds, and that doesn't require too much effort on your part, so that's always a bonus point. For the third tag, I wanted to create a sort of a red-orange background, so I used Solar Flare and Catherine Wheel. And like I did for my other tags, I first added the powders to the dry cardstock. I then spritzed the entire area with some water, and now I am coming back in with some more pigments and some more water until I obtain a result that I like. And the reason why I was working on this cutting mat instead of working directly on my glass mat is that now I can put these tags aside to dry and start working on my stamped images. The stamp set I am using today is the SugarPea Designs Monster Mash stamp set, and I am really in love with this one. It's a recent addition to my craft stash and I have been eyeing it for such a long time, so I'm really happy I have it now and I can play with it. I want to do some coloring with my Zicklin Color Real Brush markers, so I am stamping the images with VersaFine Onyx Black ink on some Bristol Smooth cardstock by Strathmore. And I am using this cardstock because these markers blend really nicely on it. And in order to add some extra shine and detail to the images, I am also coating the stamped lines with some clear embossing powder. And then I can use my heat gun to melt the embossing powder and get this nice and shiny detail on my images. For my coloring today, as I mentioned already, I decided to use my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. And these markers can be blended with each other and also with water. And you can see it right here as I'm coloring. So what I'm doing is I am taking my darkest marker, which would be my gray-brown marker, and I am placing that in the areas that I want to be the darkest. I am then coming in with my pale dawn gray and I'm blending out that gray-brown towards the highlight areas. And then I am using my Pentel water brush to blend them both out towards the lightest areas on my image. The fact that I have embossed lines on my images also allows me to color adjacent areas just one right after the other, and this wouldn't be possible without these embossed lines because basically the water will make it so that the colors would bleed into each other and I would end up with a hot mess. But these raised lines keep the colors and the water contained, so I am able to color in more quickly. And this is another reason why I usually heat emboss my stamped lines with clear embossing powder when I use my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. As you can see, I am trying to deepen the contrast on this image by adding a second layer of color using those exact same markers, and then I moved on and colored the face of this adorable mummy. I chose colors that were not too warm and were also not too bright, so those would be brick beige and warm gray, because, well, the mummy and the vampire here are not supposed to be alive, so I thought I would go for more muted shades like that for both of them. I then moved on to coloring the vampire's clothes, and for his trousers I used dark gray and pale gray, whereas for his shirt I only used pale gray. For his belt, his bow tie and for his wings too, I used deep violet, and this time instead of blending with two colors, I only used this one marker, but I will come in with several layers to deepen the color and enhance the contrast. So you see that you can build up colors by layering these markers on top of each other. And this works pretty nicely because in the end I think I got quite a deep contrast on the vampire's wing. For his hair I used blue-gray and I decided not to create flicks or too much texture in the hair because the area is a little bit small and I thought it would be nicer to just color it flat. But I did leave one white highlight on the right side of his head so that it looks like his hair is nice and shiny. I used deep red to quickly color in his mouth and geranium red to color in his tongue. And then I moved on and started coloring this cute Frankenstein image. For his face I am using light green, and in the same way as I did for the wings of the vampire, I did not use more than one color, but I built up shading and dimension by adding a couple of coats of this one marker. I used the same deep purple marker that I used on the vampire to color in his coat, adding the marker in the darkest areas and blending that out with my water brush. I wanted his trousers and his shoes to be black, but I didn't want the same color on both, so for the trousers I used dark gray and for the shoes I used the black marker. For the bolts on his head I used blue-gray, and for his t-shirt I used light green and dark gray, so that I have alternating white and green stripes, because the dark gray was used only to create shadows on the white stripes. And finally for his hair I first used a coat of blue-gray, and then I added some shadow with dark gray and then with black. Once I was done coloring, I used the coordinating dies to the SugarPea Designs Monster Mash stamp set to die cut all my images. I am sandwiching them between the cutting plates of my C6 Sidekick machine, and I am using some washi tape to hold the dies in place. And usually before I use the washi tape to hold my dies in place, I stick it to the back of my hand so that the tape loses a little bit of its stickiness and it is less likely that it will tear the paper once I want to remove the dies after having die cut my images. I did a little bit of extra die cutting off camera and I used the Spooky Escape die, this is also by SugarPea Designs, in combination with that same snowflake tag die to die cut some black cardstock and create some landscape elements because I want a little scene on each of the tags. And I also have decided already which character will go on which tag and what will be on the background. So basically what I need at this point is a sentiment for my tags, and I decided to do some heat embossing. So for this tag over here and for the orange one, I will stamp the sentiment that reads "Got Candy" with some Versamark Onyx Black ink. And initially I thought I would do some embossing with clear embossing powder, but then I decided to use black embossing powder instead. So in this case I could have used Versamark ink as well, because I thought that this way my sentiments would stand out more against the background. I also heat embossed the same sentiment on the orange tag, whereas for this purple black one, obviously the black embossing powder was not going to work, so I decided to stamp the Trick or Treat sentiment using Versamark ink this time, and I'm coating the ink with white embossing powder. This one is by Ranger. I am funneling back the excess into its jar and then I will melt the embossing powder using my heat gun. At this point all my elements are ready, so what I'm doing now is I am checking one last time how I want my images and my tag backgrounds to be arranged and which characters I want where, and then I actually can go ahead and glue everything down. And for that I used Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and I have to apologize because my camera stopped recording, but really that was just a matter of gluing the elements on the tags. As you can see, the back of the tags is stained by the shimmer powders, and you could leave it like this if you thought this gave a spooky look, but I wanted the back of the tags to look a little bit more tidy, so I die cut some black cardstock using that same snowflake tag die by SugarPea Designs, and I'm using some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to glue it down to the back of my tag. I'm making sure I have it aligned exactly, and then I am going to use some baker's twine. In this case I'm using black and white baker's twine to decorate my tag even more, and I am looping it through the eyelet of the tag. I repeated the same steps for the other two tags, and here you can see them. I am trying to catch the light to show you the shimmer brought in by the shimmer powders, which are so fun to use. And I have to say that I really love the way these tags turned out. These images are absolutely adorable, and I really hope I will have some time to feature them in more projects or even in more videos. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this one. And that's it for today. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments below, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. You can visit my blog for the full list of supplies, and I'll catch you guys soon with the next one. Ciao!